Recording? Perfect.
Hey, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking PSYCHles. This episode is called Breaking Generational Curses. Today we are here with Kametta Stevenson and Miss Alfreda Struthers, and we are going to talk about the dynamics of the generational gap that are obviously blatant in this society today, and what we can do to try to address that and fix that and break the cycle of this generational gap. So welcome to the show, ladies.
Amen. Thank you.
These are some DMV natives. You know, I'm not really, from these parts, but we have a Washingtonian, ain't that what y'all call it? Washingtonian,
right.
and a Marylander here. So this should be a very interesting perspective for this show today. So we're just going to jump right into it as per usual and go to the first question, which is, at what age do you feel you are an adult? Based on your own interpretation of what adulthood is. And we're going to start with you, Miss Alfreda.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Now, for me, adult, I was born 1946, but becoming an adult started with me at 5 years old.
Wow.
Sorry, I have to tell you that.
Wow.
I am a survivor of child abuse, sexual child abuse. So even though you don't realize, but once, because of how God has made us, once you have that sexual contact, you're becoming a woman. So things went very well for me, and on becoming an adult, mine started about 16 because I had to quit school to help with my family.
Okay. It's really interesting how it's kind of statistically known that at the age of 5 is when Black women are deemed as or taken away from their childhood and deemed as women, basically. And so for me, adulthood has very much to do with the responsibility that's put on you to think as if you were an adult, because I know at my young age, although I never really felt like a grown-up, I had responsibilities that made me feel like I was doing things as a grown-up. I was thinking of things that weren't really childlike. And it wasn't that my mom wasn't doing those things, but once the responsibility was put on me, it was kind of like my job.
Indeed.
So, yeah, that's just my take on it.
And so how old were you?
When I thought I was an adult, I would probably say about 15, 16. Okay. And the reason why I would say that is because around that age, my mom was married and she moved down here to Maryland, and I was at a private school in Pennsylvania where I needed to finish out my high school experience, and I was living with my godmom. And I just felt like that was a sense of responsibility for me because I was away from my mom, and even though I was under the care of my godmother, I felt like I was taking care of myself mentally. I really didn't become an adult until I was taking care of myself by myself. And that's when I really felt like an adult. I moved out when I was 21.
Okay.
21? I think I was 21. So yeah, 21 for me is when I felt like I officially became an adult. Kametta?
For me, the age where I officially thought that I became an adult was like maybe 19.
Okay.
And that's because I got married at 19 to a guy in the military, and we were like high school sweethearts and stuff, and I have like a child with him. That's when I became an adult at 19 because I had so many responsibilities. I moved away from my family for the first time, and I lived in Hawaii. My son was born there. So I basically started completely over. I didn't have my mom around. I didn't have anybody around, no family support, nothing. It was just me and him. And a marriage is, the highest form of a relationship. So it's kind of like once you're married, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So that's when I really felt like,
You grew up.
I grew up.
You became a woman.
I became a woman. Like I became a mom. But I feel like society will view anybody coming like of age will be 18. That's what society thinks. Like, oh, once you're 18, that's it. You're out my door. Everything's on you. But I just feel like it's a mental thing. It's not really an age thing. It's a mental thing for me.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I feel like, especially in the black community, and I've seen both sides of the spectrum where I went to an all-white high school, and these parents are looking at their children as children while they're in college, while they're 24, 25, and then coming from where I come from, it's like, you're right, when you're 18, that's when your parents kind of say, well, they're 18, you know, I don't really have that much control anymore because they're 18, and I feel like that has been a detriment to our young women. I tell my mom all the time, like, no matter what, you're the mom. So even if I turn 30, your words still mean something to me because you're my mom. So I think that society, in our society in particular with the black community, we have to get out of the mentality that once you hit an age mark, because society says that you're legally allowed to do X, Y, Z, that doesn't mean that you just leave your child to go out into the world to do what adults do. Because at that age, at 18, you might think you know what's going on, but you really don't know what's going on. You haven't really experienced much, and you haven't really been exposed to what is really out there in this world, for real. So
For real.
And I feel it's a difference between the American culture and the foreign culture because I'm Jamaican. I come from a Jamaican descent. So my mom is always there for me. I can always call her. But I feel like in the American society, it's just like, okay, you're on your own. As soon as you get that age, you're on your own. You got to figure that out. And I have friends, people that are really close to me have been in those type of situations where as soon as they turn 18, their mom literally came to them and like, so what are you about to do now? And people have been forced into situations of like joining the military and getting kicked out later because they weren't ready. They weren't mentally ready for it. So it's a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to really agree with her specifically on that. 18 is still because of our maturation. It's a little young.
Yeah.
It's a little young.
Yeah.
And females, particularly Afro-American females, and now how society is set up. When I hear the mothers calling their little girls bees, and things like they're damaging. Our children are basically damaged so early. And that damage can be permanent.
Yeah.
And I'm an optimistic person, and a person of much hope. But you still got to look at the reality in order to work on the cure.
Yes.
So I'll be using that word like
the
that.
Cure. I like that. I like that. And to kind of piggyback off of that, you know, in our society, we often hear the phrase like, do as I say, not as I do.
Okay.
And, you know, parents really don't necessarily model the behavior they wish to see their children model. But do you feel like that statement is a statement that should be spoken in homes, or is it a statement that is detrimental to the actual development of the child? Because if you see your parent, you know, walking around cussing and acting a fool and wilding out, but you expect your kid to be, you know, humble and to sit and to be quiet and to obey, you know, how is that possible when the environment plays a large role on the behaviors that manifest in your child's life throughout childhood and adulthood? What do you think, Commander?
Well, I mean, I think I'm a young mom, so it's kind of like, you know, sometimes, you know, especially with the baby father, like, you know, you want to cuss them out, and then your child might be right there, and it's just a thing that you have to monitor. Like, you have to be on top of yourself, because if anybody's not, no one's going to be on top of you like yourself. So I just feel like if you just gotta role model the behavior that you want to see within your child. I'm raising a little boy, so I want him to be respectful. I want him to respect women. I want him to, you know, be honest and all of that. So I just have to work on certain things within myself to make sure that he's being on the right path. Like, I'm not perfect, but I really don't try to do a lot of things around my child. I don't try to expose him to a lot of things. I want him to be childlike, because I feel like a lot of parents out here are making their kids grow up pretty fast.
Yeah. And I agree. Particularly when the parent will say, do as I say do. Now, that came before even my generation.
Okay.
And that's when the children would want to sit around and the parents would tell them, get out of here, you go play, you go somewhere. So that was before. I was born in 1946, as I said again. Unwed parents. and I'm an unwed parent. And with that in mind, my mother had to take me where she went.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get that like you had when they worked, or people were still coming together with one another.
Yeah.
So with my mom, I'm her third child.
Okay.
19 years old, and by the time I had come, there was a lot of disappointment in her life, very much so. And I was given over to my grandmother. I fallen out of a window, broke my legs, and so my grandmother came and she rescued me for my mother's sake. So, and plus my mother had epilepsy.
Okay. So it was a struggle. So
Very much a struggle.
gotcha.
Very much a struggle.
Gotcha. And do you feel like, you know, the time that you did spend with your mom and your grandmother, you know, they really modeled the behavior that they wanted for
Both my
you
grandmothers.
to,
I had exceptional grandmothers.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Didn't understand the abuse that both of them were domestic abuse. Now my mother's mother, my Nana, her husband physically abused her. My grandfather, my dad's father, he broke my grandmother's heart. He divorced her, married another person, and she had a bad stroke. But Lord brought her out.
Good,
Mhm.
good.
But I didn't realize the traumaticness of domestic violence until, that's why I have so much hope for the house of God,
Yeah.
until I came to church and see certain things.
And everything started to make sense.
Make more sense.
Gotcha.
Make
Gotcha.
more sense. Because I wasn't having it.
As you shouldn't, and none of y'all should. None of us should as women. And to keep the conversation going, I'm sure all of us have heard the term "age ain't nothing but a number." I don't know, Miss Alfreda, if you're up to date, because I know you don't get into all this social media stuff, but what's been going on with R. Kelly. So basically, it's been a conversation that's been going on in the social media and surrounding a whole bunch of different people that talks about the idea that older women often pursue younger women.
Yeah.
And the term "age ain't nothing but a number" was originally written by R. Kelly, but sang by the late Aaliyah, who he had relations with while she was a child and he was an adult. And so that phrase, to me, it's something that's prominent in our community, where we get the idea that, oh, you know, it's cool if I date an older guy because at least I don't have to deal with the younger mentality type men. And really, I feel like that has skewed the reality of age, because there is a difference in age. If you're 18 and you're dating a 50-year-old man, that you guys are on two different spectrums of life. And the reality is it will be a clash, because y'all have experienced two different things. While this man may have had children and been married and then traveled, you're 18, fresh out of school, don't really know what life is, and much more easily manipulated by the mentality of that man. So how do you guys feel about that phrase, "age ain't nothing but a number"?
Well, I just feel like, because I have personal like experiences too, where in one point in time in my life, I thought that, oh, you know, I don't want to talk to like anybody in my high school. I want to talk to people that are outside of high school. Like, I don't want to, you know, because I feel like they're so childlike. And I felt like I was grown, but I wasn't. But I felt like I was grown at the time, so I would talk to like older guys and stuff like that. But it never, in the end, worked out. You know, it was just too much, and we were on different spectrums. Like, so basically, you know, I was talking to someone, and well, you know, they were pursuing me, and it was just games. Like, you think that an older man is not on games, but they're like on so many games you can't even fathom,
because they didn't play the game. They 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, like they've been in the game for a while, so they're even more manipulative and sneaky and conniving, all of that. They know everything. They know how to get you. And I've been in a situation where this guy basically thought, oh, I got a nice little young tenderoni, you know, I'm about to, like, you know, parade her around and stuff like that. And you know, they just want to take everything from you, but they're not giving you anything. they make you think that, oh, I can give you the riches, I can give you this, I can give you that. But in reality, they don't give you anything. They just take a piece of you.
And that's true.
So this is more geared towards us, and I'm sure you have your side of it, which will help. But why do you feel that we as young people don't seek advice from our elders and don't go to our elders who have been through the experiences that we've been through before we make the decision? I feel like there's such a divide with the older crowd and the younger crowd, that we think the younger people think that we know everything, and the older people think that we know everything. So they say, you know, kind of like, well, they think they grown anyway, and I think
figure it out.
yeah, like or last time you came to me for advice, you didn't take my advice, so I'm just gonna leave you to the wolves because you don't listen anyway. And the reality is, if we did connect and we did talk, because I know you've probably been through these things, why do you feel like those conversations aren't being had? Because in my opinion, it definitely has to do with the judgment that I felt come from some older people, where it's like they act like they haven't been through the same type of stuff that we've been through, so they're not receptive to that information, or they're judging the situation. And then it makes the younger people feel like, okay, well, I don't want them to be looking at me like this. Yeah, I don't want to disappoint my mom or disappoint the person that thinks of me as an angel because I'm out here doing these things. So that's kind of my take on it. But
I feel the same way. And again, like when you're foreign and you're trying to talk to your parents about stuff, like my mom doesn't put anything past me. But at the same token, it was really hard coming to her. And that's why I feel like I had such a bad adolescent period, because I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. And I'm a child of 5.
yeah.
So I just felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. Even my relationship with one of my older sisters, she didn't talk to me like when I was younger that much and wanted to like socialize with me because she felt like I was too grown. But I had to come to her and I had to tell her, even as my sister, like, you know, if you were there for me more, I probably could have been better than what I am, or what I went, you know, what I went through or what I experienced. I could have, you know, probably changed certain things, but I felt like I had no outlet. And the only people that you can really talk to are your friends, and your friends are in the same caliber as you.
Exactly.
So it's like, they're going to just be like, oh, it's okay, girl, you know, it's whatever. And I feel like there needs to be a change for that. Like, it needs to be sit downs, and we need to talk more, and we need to, you know, just come together more. Like, I'm trying to do that with my mom now. Like, I try to talk to her more. I try to reason with her. I try to tell her the things that are going on in my life, because if anybody's going to help me, it's going to be her. Yep. And I just try to tell her, you know, because she's Jamaican, I'm like, can you just calm down? Let's just talk, you know, and let's see if we can come to a common ground, because I don't want to fight you. You're my mom, you know. She's not getting younger, she's getting older. So I'm trying to cherish that relationship with her. That's because right. You never know.
It's important, though.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I always like taking a little note. And one of the things is because we call it warfare, we call it adversity. Mm-hmm. When we are born, you're set up for predator or prey. Mm-hmm. And it's because of how nature is. But the wonderful thing about us is that we have a spirit in us.
Very true. Mm-hmm. Very true.
And if parents, they really do their best, because I can say for my son, and one thing I've always stayed open with him in saying that, not about being perfect. Now, I tell you, at times you gotta catch some of the older women, because we do get a little bit self-righteous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I appreciate the honesty.
But that doesn't help.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. Because you see, we've been told things in our generation that you don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so, in order to relate, I tell you about some down dirty stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so this is why usually younger women are drawn to, such as women, like say in the music field or something, either their songs or something. Now Aretha Franklin brought me out of a great shell when I became, I think I was about 20.
Okay.
it wasn't Do Right Woman either. It was called Natural Woman.
Natural
You
woman.
make me feel like a natural.
You make
So,
me feel-
so I've been able to translate that in my life as far as the Lord is concerned.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
That's right.
perspective. And
That's
and
right.
I also feel like because my mom at my age, which I'm 23, by my
Okay.
age she had 3 children.
See.
I honestly don't know how she did it. I tell her that all the time. Shout out to my mom. I don't know how you did it. But I always have to remind myself, which I didn't do as a kid,
Mhm.
is that can you imagine being that age? You don't know much about yourself. You're just learning who you are as a woman, and then you have these 3 kids to think about. It's almost impossible for you to push yourself to the side as far as your growth and development to only focus on what it is that your children need. So that dynamic of the do as I say, not as I do, it's almost not justified, but it almost makes sense when you have young parents having young children and they're dealing with the struggle of racial and financial adversities, being young and having children, not knowing who they are, having issues with the spouses and the men that they created these children with. When you're looking at it from the dynamic of parenthood and motherhood and things like that, you kind of have to always cut some slack because you just never know what headspace that parent or that grandparent was going through at that time. And me and my mom, now that I'm older, are able to talk about things where it's like, oh, when I was a kid, I was having this sort of resentment or thinking it like, oh, she shoulda, coulda, woulda, when really I had no idea that she was doing it, and she was making sure that we wasn't out here in these streets and provided structure. And that's things that people from where I come from can't say, because their parents were just like, do whatever you want. And, you know, at least my mom kept me. At least I was able to be saved by the Lord. I don't know why don't we talk. It's because the generations in the past have been taught to not talk about things like keep it in the home, don't talk about that kind of stuff, like whatever goes on at home stays at home. And really that bottling up and that restriction from speaking has damaged the entire culture as a whole, because men don't know how to communicate, families don't know how to communicate, spouses don't know how to communicate, and then the poor communication leads to what? Lack of a healthy, happy, peaceful, free, true life. And that's the whole point of this whole thing. That's not something that we're taught in our communities. We don't even know what truth is. And yeah, it does kind of slim back to slavery, because you know, during slavery time, it's like your parents taught you to be obedient because they wanted you to live. You can understand why grandparents are the way that they are and parents are the way that they are, and why they don't want to address issues, because it's so much deep-rooted pain that hasn't been addressed for so long. It's like, how am I supposed to go to my grandmom and say, Mom, you got to open up and talk about your feelings, and you got to think about your mental health? She looking at me like, girl, I'm just trying to make it to tomorrow. I'm just trying to make sure the family good.
And I feel like they think it's like a sign of weakness in a way, where you can't just come talk to your younger daughter or, you know, like anybody in your family, because it's so funny that I had a breakdown at a given time and my father talked to me, and me and him really don't, like, you know, converse like that. It's just, you know, hi, bye, you know. But we still live in the same home. So it's so funny how we had so much in common at the same age that I knew nothing about. And by just him connecting with me that time, I just felt a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Like, I felt like, okay, maybe I'm not doing so bad. Maybe I could do a little bit better if they were to open up a little bit more about themselves.
And that's the part that is so hard coming from, like, with our parents, because it's like they don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. They don't, and it's more like talking about that kind of stuff is gonna make them look like they're not the parent, if that makes sense. But it really doesn't. It helps build that bond, and I've seen it happen where the relationship between the children and the siblings and the parents is so pure because there are no secrets in the home. The parents let the kids know what's up, the kids let the parents know what's up. Siblings are bounded by love and bond, and their parents instilled in them that this is your sibling, family over everything. And that's just stuff that is not necessarily lived out. It may be talked about in our community, but it's not lived out in our communities as Black people together. So as Black women, we have to be more open to vulnerability, more open to looking weak, because weakness is not a bad thing. We all have weak moments. Right. Jesus Christ had some weak moments, and he's the perfectest of all perfect. So
we as a people, see, as we're growing and all, we take a step back. And because you take that step back, doesn't mean that the one who is leading you is going to take that step.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about the families and other nationalities, etc., you're going to have to keep in mind with us as a people, it's not anything we've done. I don't know if we call it an inheritance, but it's something that has been given to us.
Oh, I know.
And we are unique.
Yeah.
And we've got to stop pulling back
Mm-hmm.
and allowing that uniqueness to touch others' lives.
Yeah.
When you, a lot of times people don't want to say eternal life, but it's everlasting life.
Mm-hmm.
And that everlasting life comes when you acknowledge that you're not in control. These things that are happening to you are designed.
Yeah.
We're already written, already destined,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nothing wrong with standing out. It's nothing wrong with being the one person that looks away.
Mhm.
And I had to learn that myself because I don't come from a family that embraces oddballness. They point it out like, don't do, like, why are you doing that? Because you're not following what has already been set up.
Like the black
And
sheep.
yeah, and it's like I had to just be like, look,
Yeah.
you're just gonna take it or you're gonna leave it
It
because
is what it is.
God did this.
Mhm.
Nothing I can do about it. So just connecting all of why there is this generational gap. I definitely feel like social media plays a role. I definitely feel like slavery plays a role. I definitely feel like, the systematic way of how black people have lived plays a role. Do you guys feel like social media plays a role in the reason why young people and old people aren't relatable?
I definitely think so.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely think so.
Because we live in a false world as
I'm
young
telling
people.
you, like,
Social media is not real.
It's really not real. Shout out to Instagram, but we all love Instagram. Look it up. But I just feel like everything has gone down the hole. Like, even from when me being a child, like, certain things that I used to do, these kids don't do. Like, no one really goes outside anymore. No one really, like, interacts with other people, not on a technical level, but in a, face-to-face just out in the open. I just don't
Everything
get
is
it.
connected to a phone or like a digital device.
Even when you at the parties are not even the same. Everybody's just on Instagram. Oh, we just showing, the party might be dead, but you just showing like a little bit of party just to hype it up. It's just like everything has lost its value in a way because of social media. Like, females are out here just posting their bodies. In a way, to me, I feel like it's just selling your soul. Because like, you out here posting your body, showing everything that shouldn't be shown to the everyday person. That should be sacred. That should be a piece of you that you keep for your husband or whoever, somebody special in your life, and you're just out here just broadcasting that on like this major platform. Like, this will never be seen again. This is always going to be in your life. A lot of things that are shown on social media are lies. It's fake. It's not real. It's not reality.
And it diminishes respect for real.
It
Because in my opinion, the biggest thing about the older generation is respect. And that in our generation does not exist. Like,
It doesn't.
Body positivity now is nudity. That's not what body positivity is. And really, socialization is not about technology because you should be able to use social media to promote, to reach out to people, to connect with people that you may know.
Mm-hmm.
But you should use it as an opportunity to get further with that person physically, face to face. You have young people out here playing music out loud on public transportation while a senior is trying to sit and read the newspaper, and every other word is a cuss word. Where do you draw the line of respect where it's like, let me keep my social life and the things that are important to me because maybe Mr. Rogers or Miss Susan might not like that because they're older and they don't want to hear they don't want to hear all of that on the bus going to work in the morning. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Miss Alfreda?
What it is I'm trying and learning to grow to be less judgmental though.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way young people are going to survive if the older people are still around.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at this question, young people who are being disrespectful, for me that depends. If they're getting on the bus and they know they don't have fare, I will say to them, just say thank you. You don't have to feel bad about that. We're all going through it, but you need to at least say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I will give them their fare. I'm definitely going to tell you this, because this is what I say.
Say it, Miss Alfreda. Say it.
Get Jesus, or however your faith is rolling you, get you your education, and pull your panties up and keep your dress.
Words from the wise. Words from the wise. Get yourself the Lord Jesus. Keep your panties up.
Get that
And get that education, okay? You heard it here first.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because
Yeah.
education has been, made out to be such this bad thing. Like, you don't need it. You can just go out into the world and just life will happen. No, you need to be educated. You need to know what you're talking about. Speak well. You need to know how the system works in order to overcome the system.
Indeed.
And that to me is a lot of the discrepancies that I see happening in our community, where they just push education to the side. Once you graduate high school, it's like you made it, and it's like, no, there's much more out there than just the standard education that they give you, this indoctrined education that they give you through kindergarten through 12th grade.
Right.
The reason why people should attend college is because you get a sort of knowledge that you may not have been focused on when you're getting the generic stuff that they give you in school.
Right.
In college, you have the freedom to pick something that's of interest. And just as black women in general, I feel like, we have to own who we are without apology. And I feel like that is what we have not been taught, that it's not taught to us from the time that we're born, to be unapologetically ourselves, women, black women. And I think that once we come to the understanding that we are the foundation of it all, and really own that without feeling like we have to tear someone else down, or we can own that without feeling like people will look at us like we're prideful. We should be prideful. We should walk as if we are a confident person because we are divinely created to do so.
And for the dads, just to kind of lift you up a little, knowing you are going to answer if you don't care for your children. And this is one of the, men have depression, men suffer with guilt.
Karma.
Everything that we have, they have. And it's nothing any worse than living knowing that a part of you is somewhere on the earth and you're not in touch.
Absolutely. Advice. What's the best advice I can give to this generation about surviving and bridging this generational gap? And in my opinion, survival is not about money. I know you need money to survive, but I think that we have to train ourselves and train the future children of this generation to understand that survival is about peace, and it's really about spiritual prosperity. Because if you are not connected with something, you have to find something to connect with outside of you and outside of the things that are in front of you. You have to find something that's on a higher level that you can connect with in order for you to know that you're living this life for some sort of purpose. Because there are so many people walking around my age, Miss Alfreda's age, older, who don't have a sense of purpose. And because of that, life has always seemed pretty SHITTY because of that. And life is not as bad as you think it is. There are people walking around with no arms. There are people who haven't eaten in 6 days, and it's like we think that we're struggling because we don't have $25 to go buy makeup or sneakers. And it's like, life is about more than that. So I think that in order for us to be better as young people, as older people, is to, one, look at each individual as an individual and treat them as an individual and not as something that you want them to be or think that they should be. And really just open yourself up to having conversations, because you really just never know what somebody's going through. You never know what type of impact you can make on somebody's life. I literally met this wonderful young lady over the phone, and the spirit connected us, and we're here today. So understand that connections are real. Stop using your social media as the only way to connect with people. Open up your eyes, put your phone down, and really just try to build connections with people. Yeah.
God did a lot to make this world for us to enjoy.
Yes.
And that's what his main focus. That's what brings him glory. But I'm going to end mine with bend, yield, and submit. And you have to decide your level, but whenever you decide that you're not the only one and you're not the biggest one, you're going to bend. And as that grace comes upon you, then you're going to seek. And when you seek, you're going to find.
I like that.
So-
And there was one thing you said to me over the phone that it really stuck to me. You only have one master.
That's it.
You only have one master. You get to choose what that master is. Now, nobody can tell you what your master is, but what you're serving and what you're putting out into the world, for whatever reason that is, that's your master. So find your master. I know my master is God. Yours might be Allah. Yours might be Jehovah, whatever you want to call it. But find a master and stick with that one master, because you're not in control.
Amen.
The Creator is.
I'm gonna end with connect, learn, and progress.
I like that.
Amen.
It's always good to connect with anyone. You know, like Naja said, put your phone down. Connect with your parents, connect with your family, connect with everyone out there. Get out there. Learn. You can always learn something new from any given body. It doesn't matter who it is, what element it is. You can always learn something new and progress. You can never stop progressing. You can never stop becoming a better person, or, you know, becoming your best self. It's no limits. Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. I just want to thank you, ladies, so much for coming here today to talk to me. I'm so
It's done me so much good.
That's good. And please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your grandmama, tell your cousin, your auntie, everybody that you know and love, to follow us on Instagram at Breaking PSYCHles, to like us on Facebook, and to subscribe on YouTube. Breaking PSYCHles, BREAKING, Cycles, PSYCHLES. Follow us, like us. Bye.
You gotta write that down for me.
Shout out to my girl Chantel for being, you know, on the camera, behind the scenes, because, you know, don't be sleeping on the assistants.
That's right.